Hello gamers, welcome back. This is Thinsless here with Thinsless Gaming. Today we're going to go through the 3310 KvK2 recap. Betrayals led to this KvK going from a 3v5 to a 4v4 back to a 3v5. We'll also review how this KvK was won and lost. So stay tuned. Let's start off by first reviewing how the map set up from both the 3310 coalition and 3308's coalition. Then we'll talk about how the 08 coalition could have taken advantage of some opportunities, and then ultimately the betrayal that led to the KvK changing from 3v5 to a 4v4. All right, let's start over here. This is where 3310 started. In between here, zone 5, we had 20 next to us. Then the shared zone 5 with 3308. And then their other ally, 18, right above them. So this zone 5 was shared between nothing but allies. Then up here we had our first ally, 16. In the middle here was 08's other ally, which was 17. And then our ally up here in the corner, 07. And then in the middle, you had 05. So this zone 5 here was contested between 05, 17, and 07. And over here, this zone 5, we had 16 contesting with 17 and 18. The only uncontested zone 5 was over here with 18, 20, and 08. Our zone 5, we had 20 beside us, and we had 05 above us. All right, let's dig in and analyze the start of the KvK real quick. When zone 5 opened, we had 20 on the left of us, and we had 05 above us here. 05 didn't even go for their zone passes initially. They just focused north of them towards 07. They teamed up with 17 and they took control, absolute control of this zone 5 over here. 07 was zone locked fairly quickly. They made a good push initially, but 5 and 17 just overran them and pushed them back, which should have left 5 focusing on us and coming down through these passes, but they never actually did. And that still doesn't make sense to me as to what happened. But we'll get back to 05 here in a minute. 20, they took their passes initially, but we got in here immediately and dropped these forts, which effectively blocked any access they would have had to zone 5. And they never really made a push into zone 5 here. They would send Belisarius marchers and pick off farmers, but there was never really any open field fighting. They never tried to place flags and burn the forts. They just never did anything. And this zone 5 strategy here from 20 and 05 left 3310 untouched until zone 6. So all we did was sit there and farm and build and wait for something to happen, but no one engaged with us. So zone 5 was a lost opportunity for their coalition, if you ask me. Had they pushed on us, they could have ground us down on some troops, at least forced us to fight and burn some resources. We would have had to protect two different sides, which could have given a weaker opponent like 20 the opportunity to push a little bit. And in the end, that would have benefited their coalition as a whole, just draining us of some resources. Even if they weren't going to win, at least we would have had to expend storehouse resources, our troops fighting in flags, and just resources and healing speed ups, which would have helped them further on in the KvK. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what happened up north here between 5, 7, and 17, because this was a big turning point in the KvK. So if you remember, I said earlier that 07 was zone locked pretty quickly, as was 16. 16 was locked in, 17 controlled this whole area up here, and 18 was fairly well in control over here. So our allies were effectively out of the game at that point. So 17 was going in here and controlling right in here. They kind of started to butt up against 5. Now, I don't have all the specifics in front of me right now, but there was a rift that was created between their coalition, and 05 was kicked out. They say that 05 betrayed the coalition. I don't have all the facts on that, so I'm not going to speculate onto exactly what happened. But this was a big turning point in the KvK. 07 started to push out and start pushing 17 back, and there was a big fight right in the middle over here. 05 and 7 made a pact between them. This wasn't official with our coalition, but it was just an agreement between 7 and 5 that they would work together to push 17 out. Ultimately, this led to the KvK turning into a 4v4 as we officially brought 5 into our coalition instead of letting them hang out there on their own and it being a 3v4. So now we're at a 4v4. We have 16, 7, 5, and 10 against 28, 18, and 17. All right, let's talk about the level 5 passes here, zone 6. So 8 had a strange strategy here where they took the passes and then they dropped a fort up here by this circle. We never really understood why the fort drop up there. We put our fort up here closer to the Kingsland Pass and then flagged down to their fort. They never really effectively were able to do anything with this fort, and we eventually burned it pretty easy. Now, their passes over here, we flagged along the mountain over here. 20 never made a push to get out, as far as I remember, or maybe it just wasn't very effective, but they got blocked in. If you remember, 8 hasn't fought anyone yet in this KvK. They were bookended here by allies of 18 and 20. So all they should have been doing all KvK long is stockpiling resources and troops. So you would think that they would have made a push for these passes and pushed us back fairly easily, but it didn't work out that way. So we flagged over, and the real engagement happened here at this pass. 8 had thrown some flags out around here and tried to push out. So we did have to burn quite a few flags to get over here, probably from about here over. Once we made it to the pass, it did take us 3 or 4 hours to rally this pass, but we threw rally after rally after rally at it. Archers, calves, infantry, we mixed it up and we threw just massive amounts of troops at it, and they did a great job of reinforcing the pass, but ultimately they ran out of troops. We just ground them down and broke through. And I wish I had a video of the pass breaking through and all of our troops just plowing through and massacring all their AFKers. They had a ton of troops sitting right over here that we thought were just trying to get in to reinforce the pass, but they just sat there. They were offline and they just got slaughtered once the pass dropped. Once we had control of that pass, we flagged down and we took this pass with almost relatively no fight. And we sat there and just held control over Zone 6. The plan was 7, they wanted to take on 8 at this point. They called it, they were like, hey, we want our shot at 8. So we said, have at it. And 7 came in here and they were fighting pretty well against 8. They controlled most of this territory up in here, but they really struggled coming down towards here, down here around the ruins. They just started to lose steam and they started to get pushed back by 8, and then eventually they just gave up and decided that 08 was just a little bit too much for them to take on. But that did actually give 8 something to do. They were able to, field fight against 7 for quite a while. So that was some fun for them. In reality, the KvK was effectively over at that point. 8 and 20 had no shot of getting into Kingsland here. And 18 never really did anything in this KvK. They just really kind of just sat there. And 17 at this point was zone locked up here. 16 had pushed out. They had control of these passes here. 7 had these passes, and 5 had these passes into Kingsland. Everything was great. Everything was going well. Then it came to our attention that 16 had gone behind the coalition's backs and tried to betray the coalition and come up with a last minute backstab to take the zig and mess up Kingsland. We got wind of that, and that was the end of 16. They put up a little bit of resistance, but as you can see, they don't exist anymore. Really. They got pushed back. A lot of 7 fighting in this area pushed them back. We took care of Kingsland and Zone 5, and that's how this KvK turned back into a 3v5. It really wasn't a smart move on the part of 16. Their big beef was they didn't believe that 10 did enough to deserve the star in the rewards distribution. So the leaders were using DKP scans to determine the rewards for the final KvK rewards. And the scans for Zone 6 showed that 10 did outperform everyone else despite having fewer fights. We fought higher powered troops, resulting in some higher DKP. 16 wasn't happy with that, and they decided that they were going to go behind our backs and try to dispute the rewards and take it by betraying everyone. That didn't work out. So let's now take a look at how this KvK is going to end. We've gone around the map here, and you can pretty much see how this played out. We're doing a swap of Crusader fortresses to share in the controlling 3 Crusader fortresses from other kingdoms. So we're trading with 5. 20 put up no resistance here. Once past 4 opened, we just kind of walked in and took their RCF. 08, they put up a little bit of a fight. There was some flag fighting, but within 24 hours, we had complete control over their zone 4. We've completely eradicated them from the map, took their Crusader fortress. They only have this one fortress left, and it'll be gone in a few hours here. And then there will be nothing left of 08. 18, pretty much like 20, they just bent over and took it. We took their Crusader fortress. 7 took theirs. No reason to wipe them off the map because they really didn't do anything. 16, they've got their one fortress left, but they've given up. 7's going to take theirs. 5 again is going to take 7's. We take 28 and 5. So the only thing left now is to take all the proper structures here to make sure that the rewards work out. 10 is going to get the star in the DC Alliance, and this KvK is effectively over. It was pretty boring since 8 and 20 didn't put up much of a fight against us, which is pretty disappointing. I had really hoped to get more KP out of this. I got over 100 million KP, so I'm happy with that, but I really had hoped to get closer to 2 million out of this, but that just didn't work out. I mean, I went into this KvK just getting T5 in pre-KvK. So, yes, I was what you would consider a weak T5. And my commanders and gear weren't in a place that really didn't put me in a position to open field fight effectively. So I took a lot of negative trades out in the open field, trying to pick some fights to get some KP, where my account was more effective in ball fighting. Unfortunately, there weren't many ball fights to get into because, again, 8 and 5 or 8 and 20 didn't put up much of a fight. There were some flag fights. I got a good amount of KP in that. I got in some city rallies. I got some KP from that. But my open field fighting KP really wasn't there, and that was disappointing. So let's go ahead and take a look at my account, looking forward to KvK3 here, and let's see where I'm at. From a troop count perspective, coming out of KvK2, I'm going to get some troops back, so I'm going to be sitting at roughly 450,000 to 500,000 of T5 infantry and cav, and I'll be training up T4 here in the off season while we try to adjust our power and hopefully drop Imperial if possible. Let's take a look at the bag here. I got a lot of gems stored up here. We're going to hit VIP 16 at the next More Than Gems event. I was able to stockpile a good amount of speeds. So this is going to be good for healing and troop training going into KvK3. Equipment, need to work on equipment. We'll go over that a little bit here in just a second. And so I got 770 gold heads here right now. I'm going to get a lot more, obviously, in the KvK rewards. This is going to put me in a great position to expertise some commanders right out of the gate when they become available in KvK3. I was fighting KvK2 with KvK1 commanders since we're getting SOC commanders in KvK3. So it didn't make sense to spend gold heads and other resources on KvK2 commanders. So that is what put me in a disadvantage for open field fighting. But in the end, it was better for the account going into KvK3. And so we're going to cover equipment. I was super pumped here. I got my infantry set weapon here, the shield. I crit while crafting it. I was super pumped about that. Of all the legendaries that I've crafted, that's been my only crit so far. So I was super, super pumped about that. Unfortunately, I didn't get it on camera, so that was a bummer. So I feel pretty good going into KvK3 that this account is set up well. We'll see how it goes. I hope you enjoyed this recap of 3310's KvK2. If you like this video, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. I would really appreciate that. So thank you and have a good day.